The massive alien ship hung in Earth's sky like a dark cloud. It was bigger than any city, its black metal surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when people looked at them too long. For 3 days, it had been silent. Then, the message came. Director Sarah Chen stood in the emergency meeting room of the United Earth Government Building. Around the table sat the most powerful leaders on the planet. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists all stared at the holographic display showing the alien vessel. "They want to talk," Chen said, her voice calm despite the fear in the room. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole career dealing with difficult situations, but nothing like this. The alien message had been simple. They wanted to meet with Earth's leaders. They had something important to discuss. 2 hours later, the alien shuttle landed outside the government building. It made no sound as it touched the ground. The door opened with a soft hiss, and 3 beings stepped out. The aliens were tall and thin, with blue-gray skin that looked like metal. Their heads were larger than human heads, and their eyes were completely black. They wore long robes that seemed to be made of liquid silver. The one in front carried a staff with a glowing crystal on top. Chen walked out to meet them, followed by a small group of Earth's leaders. She had no idea what to expect. "I am Ambassador Zeeks Thala of the Korthanian Empire," the lead alien said. Its voice was strange, like metal scraping against stone. "I speak for the Galactic Council." Chen bowed slightly. "I am Director Sarah Chen of the United Earth Government. Welcome to our world." The alien's black eyes showed no emotion. "We are not here for pleasantries. Human. We are here to deliver an ultimatum." The word hit the human delegation like a physical blow. Chen kept her face calm, but inside, her heart was racing. "The Galactic Council has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 of your years," Zixthala continued. "We maintain order. We keep the peace. When young species like yours develop faster than light travel, they must join our system." Chen nodded slowly. "And what does that involve?" "Tribute," the alien said flatly. "Every species that joins the Council must pay tribute. This ensures loyalty and funds the Council's protection services." "What kind of tribute?" asked President Martinez, standing beside Chen. Zixthala's staff glowed brighter. 10% of your population. They will serve the Council in whatever capacity we require. In return, your species receives protection, trade rights, and the privilege of continuing to exist. The humans exchanged glances. Chen felt her stomach drop, but she kept her voice steady. "And if we refuse? Then your world burns," the alien said without emotion. "Our fleet will destroy your cities, your military, your government. The survivors will serve anyway, but as slaves, instead of tribute." The silence stretched for long minutes. Chen could hear the wind blowing through the trees nearby. It seemed impossible that such a normal sound could exist while her entire species was being threatened. "How many other species have accepted this arrangement?" Chen asked. "All of them," Zixthala replied. "Exactly 437 species currently pay tribute to the Council. None have ever refused our offer." Chen looked at the other human leaders. She could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else: anger. Humans didn't like being threatened. "We need time to consider your offer," Chen said. "You have 72 of your hours," the alien replied. "We will return for your answer." The aliens turned and walked back to their shuttle without another word. The ship lifted off silently and disappeared into the sky. Back inside the building, chaos erupted. Some leaders wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender immediately. The military commanders talked about impossible odds. The scientists spoke of technologies they couldn't match. Chen sat quietly through the shouting. She was thinking about the aliens' words. Every species had accepted. 437 civilizations had given up 10% of their people rather than fight. But humans were different. Chen had studied history her whole life. Humans had a talent for finding third options when faced with impossible choices. They also had a talent for being very dangerous when cornered. "What if we give them what they want?" she said suddenly. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at her. "You want to surrender?" General Harrison asked, his voice full of disbelief. "No," Chen said slowly. "I want to give them exactly what they asked for." "Sarah, they want 800 million people," President Martinez said. 10% of our population. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "They want our finest specimens. People who demonstrate exceptional qualities. People who would serve the council well." "What are you thinking?" asked Dr. Williams, the head of the scientific council. Chen looked around the room at the confused faces. "Tell me, what makes someone exceptional? What qualities make a person memorable?" The leaders looked at each other, not understanding where she was going. "Some people are exceptionally smart," Chen continued. "Some are exceptionally strong. Some are exceptionally creative." She paused. "And some are exceptionally dangerous." Understanding began to dawn on a few faces. "We have maximum security prisons all over the world," Chen said. "We have military detention facilities full of war criminals. We have mental hospitals with patients who are too dangerous to release. We have people who have shown exceptional skill at violence, exceptional creativity in causing chaos, exceptional resistance to authority." President Martinez stared at her. "You want to give them our criminals?" "I want to give them exactly what they asked for," Chen replied. "Our most exceptional individuals. People who have demonstrated remarkable abilities. The fact that those abilities happen to be things like murder, terrorism, and psychological manipulation. Well, that's just a detail they didn't ask about." General Harrison was starting to smile. "They said they want people who would serve the council well. And I'm sure they will," Chen said. "In their own special way." Dr. Williams shook her head. "This is insane. You're talking about unleashing our worst criminals on the galaxy." Chen nodded. "Yes. And when the Galactic Council realizes what they've gotten themselves into, I think they'll decide that demanding tribute from humans was a very bad idea." She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked horrified. Others were starting to understand. "Sometimes," Chen said quietly, "the best way to win is to give your enemy exactly what they think they want." 3 months had passed since Earth accepted the Galactic Council's terms. During that time, the planet had been busier than ever before. Prison transport ships moved between continents. Military detention facilities were emptied. Psychiatric hospitals released their most dangerous patients into government custody. Director Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship, New Horizon, as it approached the Council's central processing station. Through the massive windows, she could see the alien structure growing larger. It looked like a giant metal spider, with dozens of arms reaching out into space. Ships from hundreds of different species docked at various ports. "Impressive," said Captain Rodriguez, standing beside her. "Must be the size of a small moon." Chen nodded, but her attention was focused on the cargo ships following behind them. 27 massive vessels, each one filled with humanity's contribution to galactic civilization. She had personally overseen the selection process. The communication system crackled to life. "Earth vessels. This is Processing Station Command. You are cleared for docking at ports 7 through 33. Please prepare your tribute documentation for review." "Acknowledged, Station Command," Chen replied. She turned to her aide. "Signal the cargo ships. Tell them to begin final preparations." In the cargo holds of the human ships, 78 million individuals were waking up from their journey in stasis pods. They had been carefully selected from every corner of Earth. Serial killers who had murdered dozens, terrorists who had planned attacks on civilians, war criminals guilty of atrocities, cult leaders who had controlled thousands of followers, gang bosses who had ruled criminal empires. Each person had a complete file detailing their crimes, psychological profile, and special abilities. The council had requested documentation of each tribute's qualifications. Chen had made sure they got exactly that. Dr. Hassan Volkov was among the first to wake up. He had been a brilliant surgeon before he started experimenting on living patients without permission. His medical knowledge was exceptional. His complete lack of empathy was even more remarkable. He looked around the cargo hold with interest, rather than fear. "Where are we?" asked the woman in the pod next to him. Maria Santos had been the leader of the largest drug cartel in South America. She had personally killed over 100 people and ordered the deaths of thousands more. Her ability to organize and lead was extraordinary. "Somewhere very interesting, I think," Volkov replied with a smile. Across the cargo bay, other exceptional individuals were stirring. James, the architect, Sullivan had planned the largest terrorist attack in human history. His genius for strategy and organization was matched only by his hatred of authority. Sarah Kim had been a cult leader who convinced her followers to commit mass suicide. Her skills in manipulation and psychological control were legendary. Each cargo ship was organized by specialty. Ship 1 contained humanity's most violent killers. Ship 2 held the master manipulators and cult leaders. Ship 3 was full of terrorists and bombers. The remaining ships contained thieves, hackers, con artists, and every other type of criminal Earth had to offer. The docking process took 6 hours. Chen watched as Council security forces boarded each human ship to inspect the cargo. The aliens were efficient and professional. They had done this thousands of times before with other species. Ambassador Zixthala met Chen at the main docking port. The alien looked exactly the same as during their first meeting, showing no emotion or interest in the proceedings. "Director Chen," the alien said, "you have brought the tribute as agreed. Our inspectors report that you have provided exactly 78,642,000 individuals. This is within acceptable parameters." Chen bowed politely. "We are pleased to fulfill our obligations to the Galactic Council. Our specialists have reviewed your documentation," Zixthala continued. "These individuals possess unusual qualifications compared to typical tribute from other species." "How so?" Chen asked, keeping her voice neutral. The alien consulted a glowing tablet. "Your files indicate extensive experience in leadership positions, advanced problem-solving skills, and demonstrated ability to work under extreme pressure. However, many also show patterns of violence and resistance to authority." Chen nodded seriously. "Yes, these are some of our most exceptional citizens. Their abilities are quite remarkable. The Council values exceptional abilities," Zixthala said. "However, we note that many of these individuals have been confined against their will by your government. This suggests antisocial tendencies. They were confined because they were too valuable to lose." Chen explained smoothly. "Their skills were so advanced that we kept them in secure facilities for their own protection. Many were leaders of large organizations before their imprisonment. This was technically true. Drug cartels and terrorist cells were organizations. Criminal gangs did have leaders. Chen had become very good at telling the truth in ways that could be misunderstood." Zixthala seemed satisfied. "Very well. The tribute will be processed according to standard procedures. They will be distributed among Council member worlds based on their documented abilities." Chen watched as the first group of humans was led off the ships. They went quietly, looking around with curiosity rather than fear. Most of them had spent years in prison cells. The alien processing station was probably the most interesting place they had seen in a long time. Dr. Volkov walked past Chen, escorted by 2 alien guards. He caught her eye and winked before disappearing into the station. Maria Santos followed a few minutes later, already studying the alien technology around her with professional interest. "Director Chen," Zixthala said, "there is one concern our psychological specialists have raised." Chen felt a flutter of worry but kept her expression calm. "What concern?" "Several of your tribute members have asked our guards when they will be able to meet other species and learn about galactic society. This is unusual. Most tribute from new species show fear and depression. Your humans seem excited." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Humans are naturally curious. They adapt quickly to new situations. I think you will find them very engaged with whatever tasks they are assigned." "Yes," the alien said slowly. "That is what our specialists are concerned about." Over the next several hours, Chen watched as all 78 million humans were processed through the station. Each one was assigned to a different council world based on their skills and abilities. The serial killers were sent to planets that needed security specialists. The cult leaders were assigned to worlds with communication problems. The terrorists were distributed to planets requiring expertise in explosives and chemistry. The Council's computers had analyzed each human's file and matched them with appropriate positions. The fact that these positions would put dangerous criminals in close contact with innocent alien populations was something the computers had not been programmed to consider. As the last transport ship disappeared into hyperspace, Chen stood with Captain Rodriguez watching the empty docking bays. "Think it will work?" the captain asked quietly. Chen smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had allowed herself in months. "Captain, we just sent 78 million of Earth's most dangerous criminals into the heart of galactic civilization. Each one of them has spent years learning how to survive in hostile environments, manipulate other people, and resist authority figures." She paused, watching the alien station continue its normal operations. "The Council has ruled through fear and submission for 3,000 years, she continued. "They have never encountered a species that views prison as job training and considers rebellion to be an art form." "Oh," Captain Rodriguez grinned. "So we're going to war?" "No," Chen said, turning away from the window. "We're giving them exactly what they asked for. What happens next is entirely up to them." As the human ships prepared to return to Earth, Chen sent one final message to the Council Command Center. "The United Earth Government thanks the Galactic Council for this opportunity," she said formally. "We are confident that our citizens will serve the Council in ways that will be remembered for generations to come." The message was polite, professional, and completely accurate. Chen had just delivered a weapon of mass chaos to the most powerful organization in the galaxy, and they had thanked her for it. Now all she had to do was wait. The first reports reached the Galactic Council after only 2 weeks. They were small problems at first, minor incidents that seemed unimportant compared to running an empire that spanned half the galaxy. On Kepler 442b, a human assigned to work in the food distribution center had somehow convinced 300 alien workers to go on strike. The human claimed the working conditions violated something called basic rights. The local authorities were confused because no other tribute species had ever complained about working conditions before. On Proxima Centauri 3, another human had started what he called a religion among the servant class. The alien workers now believed that their souls were equal to their masters' souls. This was causing significant disruption to the planet's social order. Council Administrator Veltar read through the reports with growing confusion. These were not normal problems. In 3,000 years of managing tribute species, nothing like this had ever happened before. The Zephyrians were peaceful, fish-like beings who had served the Council for 800 years without a single incident. The Gornaks were strong insectoid creatures who worked in mining operations and never caused trouble. The Felinians were intelligent, cat-like beings who ran communication networks efficiently and quietly. None of them had ever organized strikes. None had ever created new religions. None had ever questioned their place in the galactic order. But the humans were different. On Vega Prime, a human named Dr. Hassan Volkov had been assigned to work in the medical facility. Within days, he had begun performing unauthorized experiments on other tribute species. When the vegan authorities tried to stop him, they discovered that he had somehow gained access to the facility's security systems. "How did he learn our technology so quickly?" asked the station commander in his report. "He has been here only 12 days, and he already understands our medical equipment better than some of our own doctors." More disturbing was what Volkov had been doing with his time. Instead of following orders like other tribute species, he had been studying his fellow workers. He had detailed files on their psychological profiles, their fears, their weaknesses. He was treating the medical facility like his own personal laboratory. The vegan authorities tried to transfer him to a different assignment, but they found that other tribute species were now afraid to work in the medical facility. Word had spread that the human doctor liked to study his patients in ways that were not officially approved. On Ross 128b, Maria Santos had been assigned to work in cargo management. She was supposed to organize supply shipments and keep inventory records. Instead, she had created what she called a business network among the tribute workers. Somehow, she had convinced workers from 6 different species to start stealing small amounts of supplies. Nothing important enough to be missed immediately, but valuable enough to be worth something. She had then set up a trading system where stolen goods were exchanged for favors, information, and protection. The local authorities discovered her operation when they noticed that productivity in the cargo bays had actually increased. Workers were completing their assigned tasks faster than ever before, giving them more time for Santos's side business. When they arrested her, they found that she had detailed maps of the entire station, complete security schedules, and personal files on dozens of administrators. She had been running intelligence operations while pretending to move boxes. She claims she was just trying to improve worker morale, the security chief reported. But she knows more about our facility than most of our own staff. The pattern was repeating across council space. Every human seemed to be causing problems in their own unique way. James Sullivan had been sent to Tau CT to work in construction. Within a week, he had organized the workers into teams with military-style structure and discipline. The construction projects were being completed ahead of schedule, but the local authorities were worried about having what looked like a private army building their cities. Sarah Kim had been assigned to work in education on Wolf 359C. She was supposed to teach alien children basic skills. Instead, she had begun teaching them about human concepts like personal freedom and questioning authority. The children were now asking their parents why they had to serve the council instead of making their own choices. But the most disturbing report came from Gliese 667cc. A human named Viktor Kozlov had been sent there to work in waste management. It was considered one of the safest assignments possible. How much trouble could someone cause while handling garbage? Kozlov had turned waste management into a recruitment center. He had convinced workers from 12 different species that they were being treated unfairly. He had taught them human concepts about workers' rights and collective bargaining. He had shown them how to organize and plan group actions. The local authorities only discovered what was happening when the entire waste management facility went on strike. Not just the humans, but every worker in the facility. They were demanding better working conditions, shorter hours, and the right to choose their own assignments. The strike had lasted 3 days before the authorities agreed to negotiate. It was the first time in council history that tribute workers had successfully forced their masters to make concessions. Administrator Veltar called an emergency meeting of the council leadership. Representatives from 12 species gathered in the Great Chamber on the Central Command Station. "We have a problem," Veltar announced, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "The human tribute is not integrating properly." High Counselor Zephron of the Altarian Republic spoke first. "Define, not integrating properly." Veltar activated the holographic display. Reports from dozens of worlds appeared in the air above the council table. "In 3 weeks, we have received over 400 incident reports involving human tribute members. This is more incidents than we normally see in an entire year from all tribute species combined." The room fell silent as the counselors read through the reports. "They are teaching other species to resist," continued Veltar. "They are spreading ideas about individual rights, personal freedom, and questioning authority. These concepts are completely alien to our normal tribute populations." Counselor Thex of the Rigelian Assembly raised one of his forearms. "Surely this is a temporary adjustment period. All new tribute species require time to adapt." "No," Veltar said firmly. "Other species adapt by becoming submissive and accepting their place. These humans are adapting by learning how to be more effective at causing disruption." Number 6. He brought up a specific report. This human named Marcus Williams was assigned to work in a mining operation on Kepler 186F. In 2 weeks, he has taught the other workers military tactics, organized them into a command structure, and convinced them that they deserve better treatment. The mining facility now looks more like a military base than a workplace. "What makes this worse," Veltar continued, "is that the humans seem to view their assignments as opportunities rather than punishments. They are not trying to escape or hide. They are actively engaging with other species and spreading their ideas." High Counselor Zephyrin studied the reports. "What do our psychological specialists recommend?" "They recommend immediate isolation of all human tribute members," Veltar replied. "However, this creates a new problem. In just 3 weeks, many of the humans have become essential to their work assignments. They learn quickly, work efficiently, and show natural leadership abilities. He paused, his expression grim. Several facility commanders have reported that removing their human workers would significantly reduce productivity. The counselors exchanged worried glances. This was unprecedented. Tribute workers were supposed to be replaceable and submissive. The idea that they could become valuable was completely outside their experience. "There is one more thing," Veltar said quietly. "We are beginning to receive reports that other tribute species are asking questions about humans. They want to know where these beings came from. They want to know why humans act differently. They want to know if they can act differently too." The silence in the chamber was absolute. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained order through a simple system. Stronger species ruled. Weaker species served. No one questioned the arrangement. But the humans were teaching other species to question everything. And they were very good teachers. 6 months after the humans arrived, the Galactic Council faced its first real crisis in over 1,000 years. What had started as minor incidents had grown into something much more dangerous. The humans were no longer just causing local disruptions. They were coordinating. Marcus, the architect Sullivan, sat in what had once been a storage room on asteroid mining station XK-739. Now, it served as the command center for the largest rebellion in galactic history. Around the table sat representatives from 17 different species. All of them, former tribute workers, who had embraced human ideas about freedom. The supply shipment from Kepler 442b was intercepted successfully, reported Zixtal, a Zephyrian who had once been a peaceful food service worker. "We now control 3 major supply routes in the Outer Rim." Sullivan nodded, marking the information on his stolen star charts. In his previous life on Earth, he had been a terrorist who specialized in coordinating multiple attacks across different continents. The skills translated perfectly to galactic rebellion. "What about the communication networks?" he asked. "Sarah Kim's team has compromised the relay stations on 12 worlds," answered Vel Knox, a former Gornak mining drone, who now served as Sullivan's intelligence officer. "We can intercept council messages and send our own broadcasts to tribute populations." Sullivan smiled. Sarah Kim had been a cult leader on Earth, expert at controlling information and manipulating large groups of people. She had adapted her skills to galactic communication systems with frightening effectiveness. The rebellion had started small, individual humans teaching other species about resistance. But Sullivan had bigger plans. He had spent months building networks, establishing communication channels, and identifying key targets across council space. The breakthrough had come when Dr. Hassan Volkov had successfully hacked into the council's medical database. The information he provided had been devastating. The tribute system wasn't just about labor. It was about genetic experiments, psychological conditioning, and population control. For 3,000 years, the council had been slowly breeding submission into the tributary species. They had been selecting the most compliant individuals for reproduction while quietly eliminating those who showed signs of independence. When this information was broadcast to tribute populations across the galaxy, the response had been explosive. On Vega Prime, the entire servant class had walked off their jobs simultaneously. On Proxima Centauri 3rd, tribute workers had seized control of the main administrative complex. On Ross 128b, Maria Santos had organized a general strike that shut down all cargo operations in the system. But Sullivan's masterpiece was still to come. "Are the teams in position?" he asked. Zixtal consulted his communication device. "All 17 target worlds report ready. The humans are in place, and the local populations are prepared." Sullivan had learned that the Council's power depended on maintaining strict order across hundreds of worlds. Their military forces were designed to handle external threats, not internal rebellion. They had never needed to fight against their own population before. The plan was simple. Coordinated uprisings on 17 key worlds, all happening at the same time. The Council would be forced to divide their forces, making them vulnerable everywhere. More importantly, success on multiple worlds would prove to other tribute species that rebellion was possible. "Execute Operation Freedom," Sullivan commanded. Across the galaxy, humans who had once been Earth's most dangerous criminals began implementing the largest coordinated attack in galactic history. On Altair 4, Viktor Kozlov led 15,000 tribute workers in an assault on the planetary control center. Kozlov had been a military commander before his court-martial for war crimes. He knew how to plan attacks and motivate troops. The tribute workers fought with human military tactics that the Altarian guards had never encountered. On Tau Ceti, Dr. Volkov had spent months poisoning the water supply in the administrative district with carefully designed chemicals. Nothing lethal, but enough to cause hallucinations and paranoia among the ruling class. As the planet's leadership descended into chaos, tribute workers took control of essential services. On Wolf 359C, Sarah Kim had convinced 30,000 alien children to refuse to attend their conditioning sessions. Instead, they gathered in the main plaza demanding to see their parents, who had been separated from them years earlier. When security forces tried to disperse them, the children sat down and sang human songs about freedom. The council's response was swift but confused. They had protocols for dealing with external invasion, natural disasters, and criminal activity. They had no protocols for dealing with their own workers suddenly demanding rights. Admiral Kethran commanded the council's largest fleet. He had fought in dozens of wars against hostile alien species, but when he received orders to bombard his own planets to stop the rebellions, he hesitated. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the rebels are not concentrated in military targets. They have taken control of civilian areas, industrial facilities, and population centers. Any bombardment would kill millions of loyal citizens." The rebels had learned from human history. They had studied Earth's wars and revolutions. They knew how to make it impossible for the authorities to use overwhelming force without destroying what they were trying to protect. On the Council's command station, Emergency Coordinator Veltar worked frantically to coordinate the response. Every time his forces moved to retake one world, 2 more planets reported uprisings. The humans seemed to anticipate every move the Council made. "How are they communicating?" he demanded. "We have blocked all official channels." "Unknown," replied his communications chief. "They appear to have established their own network using hijacked relay stations and modified equipment." What Veltar didn't know was that Maria Santos had spent 6 months building a galaxy-wide criminal network. She had contacts on dozens of worlds, all of them tribute workers who had learned human techniques for smuggling, forgery, and black market trading. The rebellion was using criminal networks that the Council didn't even know existed. The breaking point came when the humans made their boldest move yet. A team led by James Sullivan had infiltrated the central data storage facility on the Council homeworld. They had not tried to destroy anything. Instead, they had done something much worse. They had released all the Council's secret files to every communication network in the galaxy. The files revealed everything: the genetic manipulation programs, the systematic elimination of independent thinkers, the plans to gradually reduce tribute populations to manageable levels, the secret agreements between Council species to divide up the resources of subject worlds. Most damaging of all, the files showed that the Council members had been lying to their own people for centuries. The Altarians had been told that tribute species were happy to serve. The Zephyrians had been told that the subject populations were too primitive to govern themselves. The Gorneks had been told that the Council system prevented galactic wars. All of it was lies. The revelations triggered riots on the Council homeworlds. Citizens who had supported the tribute system for generations began demanding answers. Some called for immediate reforms. Others wanted the tribute system abolished entirely. Within weeks, 3 Council member species had withdrawn from the Alliance. The Rigelian Assembly announced that they would no longer accept tribute from subject worlds. The Centauri Federation declared that all tribute workers in their space would be granted immediate freedom. The galactic order that had existed for 3,000 years was collapsing. In his command center on the asteroid base, Sullivan watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Uprising on 43 worlds. 3 Council members had withdrawn from the Alliance. 7 more were reconsidering their positions. "Think it's working?" asked Zixtal. Sullivan smiled, but it was the cold smile of a professional terrorist who had just seen his greatest plan succeed beyond his wildest dreams. "It's working perfectly," he said. The Council built their entire system on the assumption that tribute species would never unite, never resist, never fight back. He gestured to the star map showing rebel-controlled territories across the galaxy. They forgot that humans have been perfecting the art of rebellion for thousands of years, Sullivan continued. And we're very good teachers. The Galactic Council was about to learn that some species should never be enslaved. Some ideas, once planted, could not be stopped, and some teachers were too dangerous to ignore. The Galactic Council's Great Chamber had never been so quiet. For the first time in 3,000 years, the representatives of 12 species sat in emergency session not to discuss expansion or conquest, but survival. High Counselor Zephyran looked around the table at his fellow leaders. Half of them were missing. The Regelian Assembly had withdrawn from the Council completely. The Centauri Federation was reconsidering their membership. 3 other species were dealing with internal rebellions sparked by the revelations from the stolen files. We need solutions, Zephyran said quietly. The tribute system is collapsing. 47 worlds are in open rebellion. Our own populations are demanding answers we cannot provide. Administrator Veltar consulted his reports with shaking tentacles. The numbers were devastating. Production on tribute worlds had dropped by 60%. 7 Council fleet commanders had refused orders to bombard rebel positions. The galactic economy was in freefall. The humans must be stopped, declared General Krextar of the Draconian Empire. We should glass their homeworld and end this madness. And AC. And then what? Asked Counselor Thex. They have taught their ideas to hundreds of other species. Killing the humans will not make the other rebels forget what they have learned. The argument was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The Council's communication officer looked puzzled as he checked his instruments. We are receiving a diplomatic communication from Earth, he reported. They are requesting to speak with the Council leadership. The chamber fell silent. Earth had not attempted contact since delivering the tribute 6 months earlier. Put it through, Zephyran ordered. The holographic display activated, showing the familiar figure of Director Sarah Chen. She looked exactly the same as during their first meeting. Calm and professional, behind her stood the same human delegation that had agreed to the Council's demands. High Counselor Zephyran, Chen said politely. Thank you for accepting our communication. I understand you are experiencing some difficulties with our tribute contribution. The understatement was so absurd that several Council members made sounds of outrage. Your tribute has destroyed galactic civilization, General Krextar shouted. They have corrupted our subject species and sparked rebellions across the galaxy. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Yes, they have been quite effective. I am pleased that they are living up to their exceptional qualifications. Effective? Veltar's voice rose to a near shriek. They have caused the collapse of our entire system, which brings me to the purpose of this communication. Chen continued calmly. We would like to discuss new terms for the relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several Council members stood up, shouting about humanity's treachery. Others demanded immediate military action against Earth. Zephyran raised his hand for silence. When the noise died down, he spoke with barely controlled fury. You have violated every principle of galactic order, he said. Your tribute was supposed to serve the Council, not destroy it. Chen's expression didn't change. With respect, High Counselor, we gave you exactly what you demanded. You requested 10% of our population. You wanted our most exceptional individuals. You asked for people who would serve the Council in whatever capacity you required. She paused, letting her words sink in. We delivered precisely that, Chen continued. The fact that you did not ask about their specific qualifications is not our fault. General Krextar slammed his fist on the table. You sent us criminals and murderers. We sent you individuals with exceptional leadership skills, advanced problem-solving abilities, and demonstrated expertise in organization and motivation, Chen replied smoothly. Their previous occupations on Earth are irrelevant to their current service to the Council. Veltar studied the human woman with new understanding. You planned this from the beginning. Chen smiled for the first time since the communication began. When you first contacted Earth, you gave us 3 options. Fight a hopeless war against superior technology. Submit to slavery and lose 10% of our population forever. Or find a third option. She gestured to someone off-screen, and President Martinez stepped into view. Humans are very good at finding third options, Martinez said. We have been doing it for our entire history. When faced with impossible choices, we change the rules of the game. Tomated for unskiven BR. Tomated for more Connors. Tomated for more Connor. Tomated for more Connor. Tomated for more Connor. Tomated for more Connor. Chen took control of the conversation again. You assumed that tribute species would always accept subjugation, because that had been your experience for 3,000 years. You never considered what would happen if you enslaved a species that specializes in rebellion. What do you want? Zefran asked quietly. Recognition of Earth as a sovereign equal in the galactic community, Chen replied immediately. Complete withdrawal of all Council claims on human space, and a new arrangement where Earth provides consulting services rather than tribute. Consulting services? Counselor Thex asked. Chen nodded. Our tribute has demonstrated that humans possess unique skills in organization, motivation, and creative problem-solving. We are willing to share these skills with the Council in exchange for trade agreements and technology exchange. The implication was clear. The humans were offering to help the Council deal with the chaos they had created, but only as equals. General Krextar shook his head. This is blackmail. You are holding the galaxy hostage. No, Chen said firmly. We are offering you a solution to a problem of your own making. You demanded tribute from a species that does not submit to authority. The consequences were entirely predictable. She leaned forward slightly. You can continue trying to suppress the rebellions with military force. You can attempt to maintain control through violence and fear. But you have already seen how well that works against species that have learned human techniques. The Council members exchanged glances. They had tried military suppression. The rebels had used human guerrilla tactics that made occupation impossible without devastating their own infrastructure. Or, Chen continued, you can accept that the old system is finished and work with us to create something new. Zefran was quiet for a long moment. Around the table, his fellow Council members waited for his decision. The weight of 3 millennia of galactic order pressed down on the chamber. What about our tribute? He asked finally. What about the humans currently spreading chaos across our worlds? We will recall them, Chen promised. All 78 million will be returned to Earth within 6 months. However, any alien citizens who wish to accompany them will be granted asylum in human space. It was the final insult. Not only would the humans take back their criminals, but they would also take any alien converts who had embraced human ideas about freedom. And if we refuse your terms? General Krextar asked. Chen shrugged. Then our tribute continues their current service to the Council. I understand they are quite effective at their assignments. The threat was polite but clear. The humans had proven that they could destabilize galactic civilization whenever they chose. The Council could either negotiate or watch their empire continue to crumble. Zefran looked around the table one last time. He saw the faces of leaders whose confidence had been shattered, whose certainty about galactic order had been destroyed by 78 million human criminals. We accept your terms, he said quietly. The agreement took 3 days to finalize. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign power with equal status to Council member species. Human space would be completely independent. In exchange, Earth would provide consulting services to help other species transition away from the tribute system. The first human transport ships arrived at Council worlds 2 weeks later. As promised, they collected every human who had been part of the original tribute. But they were not traveling alone. Marcus Sullivan boarded the transport at asteroid station XK-739, accompanied by representatives from 17 different species. They had decided to see what human civilization had to offer. Dr. Hassan Volkov left Vega Prime with a research team of alien scientists who were interested in human medical techniques. Maria Santos departed from Ross 128b with a trade delegation eager to learn about human economic systems. Across the galaxy, Millions of alien beings chose to leave their homeworlds for the first time in their species' history. They wanted to see what life was like in a civilization that valued individual freedom over social order. The Galactic Council survived, but it was forever changed. The tribute system was quietly abolished. Former subject species were granted independence or equal membership. The rigid hierarchy that had governed the galaxy for 3,000 years began to transform into something more flexible. In her final transmission to the Council, Director Chen offered a piece of human wisdom. "There is an old saying on Earth," she said. "Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it." She smiled. "You wanted tribute from humanity. You wanted our most exceptional individuals. You wanted them to serve the Council. In whatever capacity you required." The transmission ended with Chen's parting words echoing through the Council chamber. "We hope you found our service memorable." The Galactic Council learned that day that some species should never be underestimated. Some demands should never be made. And some teachers are too dangerous to ignore. Humanity had given them exactly what they asked for. The fact that it nearly destroyed galactic civilization was simply an unfortunate side effect. After all, they had only wanted tribute.